Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the episode of Just Say Guay. I'm your host, George Guay. Today I'm joined by Colin Miller of Rio Grande Valley FC in the USL Championship Soccer League. He was also the first guest to ever make an appearance on the show as an athlete, and we're running it back. Colin, thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me, George. I'm really excited for another episode today, and I'm really fortunate to have you on or have me on. Thanks.
Yeah, so honestly, how's this year been, man? I know it's crazy. Last year, you guys were fortunately able to play during a pandemic. There were even fans at some of the games in the USL. You had a free agency experience for the first time during the pandemic. You're with your new team as you know this crazy year is wrapping up. How's the whole process been?
Yeah, everything has been kind of crazy. I think going back to last year with Loudon, I think we were able to get in. It was supposed to be a 16-game season, but even our season was cut short. We had some COVID cases at the end of the year, and we only ended up playing 13 games. And then even going into this offseason, I wasn't sure kind of where I was going to be, whether I was going to be back with Loudon or where I was going to be kind of testing that free agency market and seeing where things were going to take me. But ended up down here in South Texas, down here in the Valley. And I couldn't be more happy and excited about how the season's gone so far. And even just the excitement going into a new chapter. I think new opportunity with a new club who is coached by Wilmer Cabrera, who has MLS experience, and even just the opportunity to work with some new goalkeepers, work with a new goalkeeping coach, and just to try and expand my horizon and kind of continue pressing on here now into my third season.
Yeah, it's definitely worked out so far, and you know the team is playing really well. So the free agency process is something I wanted to ask you about. How stressful is it, and is it kind of like picking a college?
Yeah, I think that's a good way to look at it. I think there's a lot of unknown. There's a lot of uncertainty. I'm fortunate to have an agent who does help me through the process, and they have a lot of connections. And even for me, it ultimately comes down to kind of how I can help them, because I'm not often the one on the phone making the calls, trying to sell myself. Towards the end of the process, I'll usually get on the phone with maybe a head coach or an assistant coach or a goalkeeping coach or all the above, or maybe an owner or a manager or whoever, just to try and advocate for myself and let them kind of inside of my world and give them a little bit more of who I am as a person. But it's usually like a turbulent time. You don't really know where you're going to end up. You don't always know if you'll be back with the same club or maybe with a new club. And for me, a lot of even my contracts so far to this point have all been 1-year deals. And so I'm not always really sure where I'll be even the next season, even if I do find a home for 1 year. I could be back with the same club or I could be looking elsewhere. And I've kind of really just tried to cast a really big net and try and gauge as much interest as I can each off season. And I've just been trying to find a club that for me, I'll be able to continue growing as a player, because I still feel like I'm in, I say, like a product development stage of my career, especially as a goalkeeper, who as a goalkeeper, you have a little bit longer of a window, of a playing window than maybe like a central midfielder or a forward or some other guys around the park. So it was, again, a turbulent time, but I think it's a good way to describe it. I think you're trying to pick a school, you don't really know a ton about the school, before you go into it. I didn't know anything about South Texas, before coming down here, but you kind of trust your network and some people that you speak to have maybe been, to the school or to the club before. And then you kind of just say your prayers and you go into it, with a full heart, fully prepared, and you kind of just ride the waves as they come in.
Yeah, it's definitely about finding the right fit, and it seems like you've really liked it. I remember when we talked about a few months ago how what the team is like, the new facilities that the place has to offer. But what is the town itself like where you're living, and was there a culture shock along the way?
Yeah, I live in Mission, Texas down here, which is about 15 minutes from Edinburgh, and Edinburgh is where our stadium is located. And so coming down here into South Texas again was my first time really being in the area. I have a cousin who lives in Dallas. I had been to Frisco before, but had never really been to any other major city here in Texas. And so all of it again was brand new. I think coming down here too, I think probably a little bit of a culture shock. I think one, with the club and the organization. I think two, just living in the area, just living in a new part of the country, I think is always, new at first, but then you get used to everything just like you were anywhere. I feel like I'm kind of nomadic anyway. I can kind of find my way or find a home or call a place home, anywhere where I'm at. I think the people around me, have always supported me, and I've always had a good network. I'm always staying in touch with my family, trying to stay in touch with my friends, my girlfriend as well. We've done, I think, a really good job trying to call any place home, as I kind of navigate, the uncharted waters of kind of this professional soccer career. But it was definitely new at first, but now I think we're about 4.5 months into me being down here when we got going with preseason. And so our regular season will run until about the end of October, with postseason being in November. And so I'll be able to kind of get to know the area more as the season goes, but I've already kind of got my feet on the ground down here, and I'm really enjoying the area.
That's good that it's working. So one thing I want to ask in regards to your transition from Loudon to Rio Grande City with this new team is that when you were in Loudon, you were at about an hour to DC and to Baltimore. That's correct, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So where you are in Texas, where you were in DC, you were pretty close to cities that had really, big pro sports teams and a lot of colleges in the area. Where you are now, you're pretty far from Houston and San Antonio. Does it feel like the fans are more invested with this team because it's pretty much the team in the area?
Yeah, we actually have a really, really strong fan base down here. I think everybody from, the supporters of the club, but also I think just the residents of the area. I think everybody is invested in the team, and we have really nice facilities. I think we have an outstanding marketing department as well that engages the fans, engages the community as a whole. And I think also just the club itself, we don't have a ton of competition in this area, I think, which is nice. I think we're about 5 hours from Houston, about 3.5, maybe even 4 hours, or so from San Antonio, about 4.5 hours from Austin. And so in terms of soccer itself, we are one of the lone professional soccer teams down here in this area. So I think it helps with us, being able to draw and being able to gauge that market. And I think with the team success so far this season, we've kind of seen, our fan base grow a bit. And anybody at any point in time wants to be around a winning team, versus a losing team. You have that bandwagon effect, when things are going really well. And so we've kind of been riding that as of late, and we're hoping to keep that going as the season rolls on, and just try and continue broadening our network and building our fan base.
Yeah, for sure. It's great to have awesome fans. So what do you like about the team so far? There's obviously you mentioned great success, but is there anything that sticks out about it as opposed to, other groups that you've been around?
I think this team that I'm with this year has been a completely different experience to what I had with Loudon the past 2 years. I think this club, we have a little bit more of a veteran presence. So we have a lot of guys who have played a lot of minutes, a lot of games in a lot of leagues all around the world. And so there's a ton of experience that I benefit from, being able to learn from these guys, whether it's their routines day in and day out, or just how they handle themselves on and off the field. And I think this year with this club as well, we're in the Western Conference, where last 2 seasons I've been playing in the Eastern Conference. And I think at least for me, it gauges a whole new realm of possibilities, and again, tries to build that network that I'm trying to build as well as I kind of continue with this career. But we got a lot of guys, again, who have played a lot of minutes all around the world. And I'm, again, just trying to learn from these guys as the season goes on. But yeah, it's been fun, I think, being a part of this group. And again, we're having a lot of success. And I think anytime, a team's doing well, you're enjoying the experience, as a whole. So it's been really fruitful so far. And I'm really excited to kind of see where the rest of the season goes from here.
Yeah, for sure. You guys are in a great spot right now. So, in regards to playing in the USL Championship League, how different is it from college? Because most of your games for college are kind of on the weekends and far less length of a schedule. Obviously, I think you guys definitely travel more, I assume, in the USL. How is that challenging?
Yeah, the season itself, I think, is probably one of the biggest changes from college to the professional level. With the professional season, we go for about 10 months or so out of the year, including preseason, and if you include the playoffs. If we were to play a full season, we had a full season my first year, and then in my second year, it was kind of the COVID season, and it was affected and it was really cut short. So this is really my second true, so far, knock on wood, nothing and I guess knocks us off the rails here, but we're able to kind of have a full professional season. But I think the slate of games too, we're playing a 32 game season this year, which in college, I think you're only guaranteed, I think 18 games or so. And those 18 games are squeezed into about 3 months time. And that maybe doesn't include the playoffs, but preseason as well in college is about 2 weeks. And it's more of a sprint, where at the professional level, it's a marathon. And I think it's a very long season with a lot of like ups and downs. And I think the season itself plays a role, because you could have so much that goes on throughout 10 months, versus maybe stuff that goes on at the most, I think maybe a 5-month college season, from start to finish. So I think that's probably been the biggest adjustment, is trying to, train differently in the off season to make sure, my body is durable and able to kind of withstand all the demands that a full season has in store. Also the travel, like you mentioned, we're traveling all over the country. So far this year, we actually have been to Miami. We just got back from Orange County last weekend. We'll take trips up to Austin and El Paso here in Texas and San Antonio. And then in a couple of weeks time, we'll go out to Phoenix, and then we'll also go to Real Salt Lake and even over to Colorado. So we've been traveling all over, which does take a toll on the body and stuff, but it's all like really fun, and part of my quest coming out here to the Western Conference this year was also to try and see new areas of the country that I've never seen before. And all those cities, with the exception of Miami, are out pretty much here in the West, and there's cities and towns I've never been to before. So even soccer aside, it's cool to kind of see a new part of the country and see a new city. I also get to live out my dream and play my sport at the highest level.
Yeah, for sure. I think I agree. Definitely a marathon as opposed to a sprint. Did it ever take you back when you're playing in this league? Because obviously when you were in college, it's definitely an international game, just like the USL. Obviously Tiago and Joao were on Providence, and they were from Portugal. But it's all the same age group, right? Pretty much in the college game. But I remember going to one of the USL games. I think it was during 2020, and there were guys in the team that were 18, 17 years old, and they should have been, typically going to college soon. Does that really take you back a bit, playing against those type of players?
It does. It does take me back. I think even with Loudon, I got that a lot. We had a very, very young team. We had a very talented team. We were also just very young. We had guys making professional debuts at 16, 17 years of age, and guys playing even now. I'm playing with one player, Vicente Sanchez, who's played all over the world, and he's 41 years of age. And so he brings like an incredible amount of like knowledge and experience, versus, playing with and against guys, 16, 17 years old, are also too, like they're playing at the highest level as well, which is incredible for them to get that experience. But it does take me back to kind of the college days a little bit, to where I came in at 17 and I couldn't imagine, playing at this level at 17, a couple of years ago, just coming into college, but for these guys to have this opportunity, is profound for their development. And I think even just for their resume as well, they get to have this experience, and they're only going to get better, playing against older, faster, quicker, and just better overall talent. They're only going to reap those benefits. And I think it's true too, even at a young age, like whether it's, a younger brother going up against an older brother, or a younger brother or younger sister playing with an older sister, you kind of see how the younger sibling, sometimes always benefits from that, because they're playing against older, more mature, more physical competition. And so they reap those benefits, they mature faster. And I think all that holds true, even in your late teens, early 20s, you're still going to benefit from playing against that higher level and a little bit older competition.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously, I think some people don't even forget that, they're challenged because they got to be 17, 18 years old going up against these grown professional adults. And, meanwhile, they got to live with the challenge of adapting to a new place in a new city, just like you are right now. So obviously I brought up college soccer. How closely do you still follow PC soccer? Because I know there's some guys that you played with that are still on the team. I was just wondering, how much do you still pay attention?
I do keep up. Yeah, I've been actually trying to keep up with more of the schedule this year, because of the season kind of being really canceled in the fall of last year, and the guys got some games in the spring, and I was able to keep up with some of their spring season that the guys had. But I was actually just talking to Joao. You mentioned Joao a couple of days ago because it was his birthday, and he's planning on trying to get back to Friartown over their senior day weekend. And so I think it's senior night sometime, and I think later October is when those guys are playing. And so we were actually just talking about the program and how things were going. I haven't stayed in touch as much with the whole coaching staff, but I do talk with our goalkeeper coach, Carl Spratt, who actually just took a new position with the Philadelphia Union. He's going to be the head coach of Philadelphia Union 2. Oh, my bad.
No worries.
Sorry about it. Yeah, he's going to be the head coach of Philadelphia Union 2. He's also going to be the goalkeeping coach. He's going to be the head goalkeeping coach of the academy, and he's also going to be the head goalkeeping coach of Philadelphia Union 2. So I want to get that right.
It's a big job.
Yeah, so he's actually, so for me it's honestly a great opportunity for him, and then for me I was realizing that he had been at Providence for years. He was there for my full 5 years that I was there, and then he was there a couple of years before when I got there, and then he's been there for a few years afterwards. So he's had a really long tenure. So I think for him, an awesome opportunity, because before he was the director of goalkeeping for the New England Revolution for their academy, and so now he's transitioning in with them. And so I congratulated him a couple of weeks ago, but I haven't really talked in depth about his new kind of new chapter and new opportunity. But I do try and stay in touch with the staff and some of the players. I know Malcolm and some of those guys as well who are just getting going with their senior season, and Remy and those guys. And I think they're really looking forward to the season, especially after not having a full season last year. I think you kind of have that appreciation and even that love for the game is kind of refound in a way, after not having something for a while. So I know all those guys are excited and looking forward to the season, but I do try and stay in touch with the program because it's given me so much, so I try and give back in any way that I can and stay connected or just giving advice or whatever it is to those guys who are still making their way through the program.
Yeah, it's awesome you still stay in touch. I'm happy that, they're going to get a normal season too, especially trying to go through a school year as well. I hosted one of the freshmen on from that team that just played this past season, and I asked him what it was like, and he said pretty much it was preseason, but for a whole year or almost a whole year. But yeah, so you mentioned Remy, who was a goalkeeper that you worked with, obviously when you were the starting goalkeeper. What's it like seeing, the success that he's having and knowing that, you got to see what he'd be like early on?
Yeah, Remy's earned everything that he's really gotten so far in Providence. I think he kind of was biding his time even when I was there, and then even the year after he sat behind a goalkeeper named Austin Visa, who's playing with the Richmond Kickers now in USL League One. So I think for him, he's really dug in. I think rode those waves. It's tough as a goalkeeper because there's only one of us on the field at all times. And it's oftentimes if one guy's playing, the team's doing well, you're not going to make a whole lot of changes. And so for him, I think he's in a great opportunity to kind of take the reins and be that number one, for, again, this season and even for another season. I think he has a great pedigree, I think, coming from like Toronto FC's academy and even being able to work, with Carl Spratt, our goalkeeper coach, who we were just chatting about, because I think personally he's the best goalkeeping coach that I've had the opportunity to work with throughout my whole kind of even youth and now even professional career. I think Remy now being able to work with him and learn from him, and I think it'll be really exciting to kind of see where Remy is able to take his career, because he's got a ton of potential and he's got a ton of tools in his toolbox, and he just keeps adding to them. I think that the sky's the limit, and I know he's involved on campus as well, which is awesome. So he's involved with the Student Athlete Advisory Council, which was something I was involved in as well, and so I could really appreciate the stuff he's doing on the field, but also the stuff he's doing off the field to help try and facilitate that holistic student athlete experience, which is really tough to try and balance it all, but it seems like he's doing a really good job and he's really disciplined with everything.
Yeah, he's doing a lot of great things. I have heard that from other students that are still at school. I just find it amazing how the program, once someone graduates, or the program's still able to do really well. Like so many great players have come through: Max Steves, Gressel, Klinsmann Souza, yourself. Austin was very good in that, and every year someone else, fills their shoes. And the program is still doing well, and it's awesome that you're still in touch with all of them, or a lot of them. So my last question doesn't have to do with soccer, but I know you're a big Ravens fan, but what are your expectations this year? Obviously, the fans are going to be back at M&T Bank Stadium, and Lamar Jackson knows how to win in the playoffs now, and kind of build off that.
Yeah, I think I'm really excited to see where the Ravens go this year. I think they just reported today, I think, for training camp. I think I saw I was actually watching a video of Lamar walking into the facility not too long ago before we actually hopped on our call. But I think he's electric. I think he's awesome to watch. I think he's done a ton for the city too. I think just the other day, he's running routes on like an asphalt like basketball court, with just a bunch of kids at like a kids camp, and I think he's so relatable, and I think that's why so many people love him. I think it's because he comes off as if he's just like the average person off the field, but then he's this above average, kind of, I would say like a godly figure on the field with his ability and everything he's able to do. Like obviously on the field and in between the lines, and so I think it'll be cool to watch. I think they got a bunch of weapons around him too. Some good draft picks. I think will kind of fill out the rest of the team, and I think it'll be fun. I'm actually hoping to make some games in the fall because my dad loves going to the games. He goes to just about every one. We have season tickets, and so I'm gonna try and make some games sometime in the off season when I'm back home around like December. So it'll be some cold nights at M&T Bank, but I'm sure it'll be fire on the field, and the boys will be buzzing hopefully throughout the whole season.
Yeah, it'll be awesome to be back, in the stands with fans. I think it's awesome that, Lamar is someone who really puts himself out there. I think it's great that he's really took himself as kind of pretty much being the face of the city. I think once Ray Lewis retired and, Michael Phelps stopped swimming, it was, is it going to be Machado? Are the Ravens going to draft someone? But I think there's no debate as who's the face of Baltimore. I think they're going to have a great season. I think it's going to be interesting to see how these players, play better with fans now. And, obviously I think a lot of teams did better in the offseason. But Colin, thanks for on the show for a second time, and best of luck with your team.
Thanks a lot, George. Thanks again for having me on, and all the best until we talk next time.
Yep. Have a good one, man.